Now, talking about bats, look at these beauties up on the wall. We're going to head back to that sort of era because one man has a cricketing track record that's nearly 50% better than anyone else in history. With the game having changed so dramatically over the years, is there any merit in going back and trying to understand what made Sir Donald Bradman a statistical freak? Tony Shillinglaw has been a lifelong student of the Don, and he explored what made him so special with Andy Flower one winter morning in Birkenhead.
Right, come on, shall we take a walk out there?
Yep.
Let's see what we can see. There's not much of a pitch, I don't think, for us to look at. It's beautiful though, isn't it?
Beautiful, yeah. It's a famous park, this, you know, and it's the first municipal park ever. Central Park in New York's modelled on it.
Oh, right, okay.
And it's a nice feeling because, you know, we've been playing cricket here for 170 years. How did a little fella my size come to be twice as good as anybody else? I just thought, well, I'd like to try and find out, because there must be a reason for it.
He was obviously so far ahead of everyone else. He is a fascinating subject.
Jack Potter, he set up the Australian Cricket Academy. And I said, has a study ever been made of Donald Bradman? And he said, no. That is astounding. You've got a man so good and nobody's ever taken any notice of him. To be honest, my poor wife, it was her that got me on the right track, because cricket usually talked in terms of technique. She was interested in ballet and gymnastics, and, but she started talking about rhythm and movement and balance. And that started to register. And then one day she said, in character, in manner, in style, in all these things, the supreme excellence is simplicity. So to be so as consistent and as Bradman, the method had to be simple to him. And that leads you back to everything leads to the golf ball and stump training, and the technique stemmed from that. Bradman didn't learn to bat as such. He was a boy playing a game. He didn't have a bat, he didn't have a ball. He had a golf ball and a stump and an 8-foot space. And he trained himself to control a ball. And batting, as Andy will tell you, any ball game is about controlling the ball. And unknowingly, he found a way of controlling this ball better than anybody else has ever done. So I came down to the club one morning with all the, the techniques and everything in my mind and whatnot, started hitting the ball against the wall, and I thought, I've wasted 3 years here. But then this is the key, Andy. I then remembered Bradman was always saying, you hit through the ball, you don't stab it. As soon as I started doing that, rotation, that's all there is to it. That makes the body and everything synchronize in one movement. And everything stems from that.
Okay, so I'm understanding that training method a little more now. Because of the necessity to get the bat back into a shot after it's bouncing straight back off the wall.
It wasn't about shots, Andy. This was about controlling the ball.
So that sounds like a really important point. So to control the ball coming back off the wall, he had to rotate his back, back constantly.
He wouldn't be doing that. He'd be doing this.
Moving his feet.
Yeah, it goes everywhere.
Because it's in direct contrast to something a lot of batsmen do these days, and that's stand very rigidly, in a very upright fashion, with the bat held in a very stationary position. You're talking about something totally different.
Yeah, totally different. That's the essence of it. It's the moving bat. It's the continuous rotary batting formula.
One description of Bradman earlier was that he was a freak, but what Tony's saying is he wasn't so much a freak. It was through his training that he developed himself into this wonderfully natural, instinctive player.
He didn't know what he was doing.
Yes, but all because of his early training as a
Everything is the golf ball and stump. Everything. That's Bradman. That's where he came from.
Well, shall we go and I want to see you hitting that ball against the wall.
Okay, that's fine, yeah.
Okay.
The secret of the Bradman method, he was always insistent on playing through the ball.
Yeah.
So you'll watch, my feet are reasonably static at the moment, but as soon as I start rotating, my whole body is free. It's the rotation that sets everything free.
Yes.
And the other interesting thing is that even though I'm playing the ball, I'm able to talk to you at the same time. So I believe Bradman's method of thinking is different to the normal way we are trained and bat.
Well, explain that a little more. How might his thinking be different?
Well, as having batted, you know, for 40 odd years in a sort of orthodox fashion, we seem to be thinking about, oh, where's this? You know, where's my left hand? Is my technique okay today? Bradman didn't have to think about anything other than watching the ball and controlling it. Everything just happens automatically.
I think you made quite a good point in that because his method was so instinctive, he wasn't taking a lot out of himself mentally and emotionally. And when you see people that are very rigid and tense at the crease, they look exhausted after they've scored 30 or 40.
Right.
He wasn't.
No. If there's tension in the body, there's tension in the mind. That's why set batsmen get out. Because you're tense, you're thinking all the time. He didn't think. He just reacted to the ball. And that's the training he got in there.
And a couple of things that I observe just watching you do this is firstly your control. And not to put too finer a point on it, you're an old guy. And you've still got amazing control with the face of the bat, which is what you're looking for as a batter, because that gives you control of the ball. You've also got a lovely rhythm, and that's the fluidity of movement that you're talking about.
I think that's the ultimate thing. Bradman's bat never stopped.
Yes.
Continual motion.
And then have a go with this little ball and see how you go with that, and what different challenges that going to pose.
I'm doing this now without my glasses. My eyes aren't good, but it doesn't make any difference. It's the ball that's telling me what to do.
And Bradman was slightly short-sighted, wasn't he? If I remember correctly.
When the professor of physics studied his eyes at Adelaide University, they found his eyesight reaction time was slightly slower than the average student before his famous Invincibles tour. They again studied his eyesight and it was surprisingly poor.
Right.
So that indicates what I've tried to prove for myself, which I think I am doing now, that it's not your eyesight, it's the ball and the training.
Yes. I do like the description of method. It's less scary for most people than talking technique. The method sounds more holistic. But I do get frustrated with people that think technique is a dirty word, because if you've got a faulty technique and it's making the game more difficult, you aren't getting the simplicity that Tony is describing. If you've got a faulty technique and the ball, for instance, isn't going where you're asking it to go, you will not feel the sort of confidence that you need when you play international cricket. So technique is important and you can't shy away from that. It's whether people are slowed down by thinking technically when they should be competing with the bowler.
George Headley, who's nearest to Bradman, and he's 60, his dad worked on the Panama Canal, and George Headley played baseball up to the age of 9 or 10 when he went to Kingston. Right. And when I was reading, I got a shock. George Headley didn't know what cricket was until he was 10, but he'd learned to hit a ball this way. He was quicker to 1,000 runs in Test cricket than Bradman. Somehow, different men from different sides of the world, it just so happened that the stance was identical. Nature had told them how to bat, not a coach.
That's good foot movement, Louis.
It's marvellous, yeah. The best batting is about hitting balls. Is there a better way?
I tell you what this reminds me of, Tony.
Yeah.
Two things. Garden cricket, which we used to play all the time in Zimbabwe, myself and my brother. But also on my tours of India and Sri Lanka, watching the kids play on the outfields and the variety of surfaces that they would play on, and making best use of a wall or whatever surface they've got, anything, but making it fun and challenging. For an 82-year-old, it was pretty incredible to watch, actually, his balance and fluidity of movement and rhythm and what have you, but also the quality of his shots. The lesson there is, if you start that early as a kid and embed that into the way that you move and the way that you react to the ball, then I think you're onto something pretty special.
Oh, sorry.
This type of fluidity is really valuable. And if you combine that type of training and mastery with kids having an early go at freeing their arms and hitting the ball hard, hitting it for 6, hitting it over the infield, hitting it for 1 bounce fours, and really getting them enthused and excited.
The thrill of hitting the ball. Yeah.
And the thrill of hitting a ball.
Yeah.
And this is a fundamentally different way of training.
Exactly.
And you're hoping for a fundamentally different result.
Yeah, and some will be able to do it, as you say, probably more athletic, and some won't. But that applies to any technique. But it's based on the ability to judge the ball.
I think when it comes to coaching youngsters, one of our responsibilities as coaches is to offer young players options. So not being too directive and placing our values on them or our techniques on them. And I think if we can learn a little from what Tony's talking about and help get kids excited about mastering their art, then I think Tony's already making a difference.
It is bizarre, isn't it, when you come to think of it? Bradman was so much better than any other batsman in the history of the game. The statistics tell you that no one has yet decided to try and teach children his method.